You know someone like this. He has brilliant ideas, grand dreams, a sparkle in his eyes of someone born for something extraordinary. He talks about incredible projects. He lives on possibilities but never brings anything to fruition. He always has a ready excuse for each failure. It wasn't the right time, it wasn't the right person, the world hasn't understood me yet. Maybe he is that childhood friend of yours, or a younger brother. Maybe he is your boyfriend. Maybe he is your father, someone who, despite their age, seems to have stopped in time. An adult who still behaves like a boy, emotionally unstable, averse to commitments, always seeking freedom and fleeing from any real responsibility. And maybe, just maybe, part of you still hopes that he will change. Carl Jung referred to this psychic pattern as the Puer Aeternus, the eternal boy. It represents the archetype of the man who resists maturity, someone who remains perpetually in a state of becoming, endlessly preparing for life but never truly beginning it. His charm lies in his youthful spirit, his bursts of creativity, his spontaneity. Yet behind this allure hides a darker truth, a deep inability to confront the real world's demands. The Puer believes life should bend to his will, expecting others to resolve the very challenges he refuses to face himself. He fantasizes about the perfect life, the ideal partner, the dream job. But when reality inevitably falls short of these ideals, he retreats. He walks away, lets go, and finds himself once again trapped in the same loop of unrealized ambitions. He convinces himself that he is too unique to accept the monotony of routine, when in truth what holds him back is fear. The fear of disappointment, of failure, of adulthood itself. If you have ever tried to help someone like this, you know how exhausting it is. You get tired of giving advice that goes unheard, of offering support that is wasted, of trying to pull someone who deep down doesn't want to move. And the cruelest part, he makes you feel guilty, as if you were the problem for demanding too much, for wanting him to mature, for not accepting to live in an eternal almost. But the truth needs to be said. This man you know is trapped in a fantasy of freedom that, in practice, is a prison of fear and immaturity. And if he doesn't wake up, he will grow old without ever having truly lived. This video is not an attack, it is a mirror. And if you are watching this far, it's because something inside you recognizes this pattern, perhaps in someone close, perhaps even in yourself. The journey of the Puer Aeternus doesn't have to end in stagnation, but it can only change when the truth is faced head-on. Let's talk about now. What is Puer Aeternus? The Puer Aeternus is not just a type of personality, it is a deep archetype. A psychic force that operates in the unconscious of thousands of men and is often confused with charisma, spontaneity, or a free spirit. But behind this light appearance, there is something much more serious, an almost instinctive refusal to grow up. Carl Jung observed this pattern in various patients and myths throughout history. The Puer appears as one who refuses to leave the paradise of childhood, the psychic womb of the mother where everything is cared for, protected, and resolved. He lives in the shadow of the promise of a glorious tomorrow that never arrives. He is the eternal son of the gods, the chosen one, the special one, but in practice, he never takes charge of his own life. You've likely witnessed this firsthand. Men who drift from job to job, constantly chasing something more meaningful, who begin projects with passion but abandon them the moment they encounter resistance, who fall headfirst into love, only to vanish when the relationship begins to require emotional maturity. These are men who speak of freedom, spirituality, and self-awareness, yet struggle to pay a bill on time or sustain a commitment for more than a few fleeting months. And it's not due to a lack of intelligence or ability. The Puer is often sharp, emotionally attuned, bursting with potential. He maintains a vivid link to imagination, creativity, and inspiration. But this very quality keeps him rooted in the world of ideas, detached from the gravity of reality. He yearns to soar without building the wings, to be loved without responsibility, to achieve greatness without the grind, to reap the fruits of adulthood without ever embracing the burden of maturity. And when the world fails to meet these expectations, he turns against it, blaming the system, blaming his parents, blaming life itself, but never turning that blame inward. Carl Jung observed that the Puer Aeternus is marked by a disconnection from time. He is never truly in the present. He is always in a not yet, always waiting for something else to come first. The perfect idea, the ideal partner, the right moment. He lives in the someday, never in the now. and because of this he does not truly live. He only endures, sustained by dreams that slowly become burdens too heavy to carry. But there is another side to this story, because the Puer, despite being immature, also carries a force that cannot be dismissed. He is the source of inner youth, creative imagination, the ability to reinvent life. The problem is not the boy that exists within the man. It is when that boy takes control of existence. And this is exactly what we need to understand next. When the shine of the Puer begins to darken and the shadow takes control. Let's now talk about the dark side of the man-child and how it silently destroys everything around him. If you find this content valuable, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. The lure of freedom. There is something magnetic about the man dominated by the archetype of the Puer Aeternus. He is light, he is spontaneous, he speaks like a poet, dreams like a visionary, and lives as if he is outside of time. He does not follow rules, does not accept labels, does not cling to anything, and this for many is fascinating. He seems free, and who does not desire freedom in a world suffocated by obligations, commitments, and empty routines? But here lies the trap. This freedom is an illusion, a carefully constructed disguise to hide what he fears most: reality. The Puer is not truly free. He is on the run. He flees from discomfort, from failure, from rejection, from time itself. He avoids the weight of owning his life, and with every choice he dodges, every decision he delays, every responsibility he shifts onto others, the illusion of freedom tightens into a prison disguised as independence. You've likely seen this play out. He claims he's too exceptional for a conventional job, that he was meant for something more. But beneath that claim lies a deep fear of structure, routine, and commitment. He insists that relationships confine him, that he values his freedom. Yet what he truly fears is vulnerability, being fully seen, and being accountable to someone else. He says he rebels against rules, but the truth is he's never learned how to live with limits. This freedom he advertises is at its core a childlike refusal to face life's difficulty. He wants to remain pure, untouched, a beam of eternal light. And to preserve that illusion, he must never stop moving, like a balloon carried endlessly by the wind. But time does not wait, and the real world sooner or later demands a price. Carl Jung said that the Puer Aeternus lives in suspension, as if he is always floating between heaven and earth. He does not want to descend, does not want to root himself, does not want to deal with the concrete. But without roots, nothing grows. Without effort, nothing flourishes. And without pain, there is no transformation. True freedom is not the absence of limits. It is the ability to consciously choose what deserves your commitment. But the Puer does not choose. He escapes. And in this escape, he not only sabotages his own life, he gradually destroys the people who try to love him. And this is what we will explore now. The dark side of the Puer Aeternus, when promise turns into destruction. Let us dive into the shadow that this archetype carries and understand how it corrodes everything around it. Puer's shadow, when brightness turns to darkness. In the beginning, everything seems enchanting. The Puer Aeternus shines with an energy that attracts, inspires, and envelops. He is passionate, enthusiastic, unpredictable. But over time, that shine begins to fade. What was lightness transforms into absence. What was sensitivity turns into instability. And what seemed like freedom reveals itself to be escape. It is at this point that the shadow of the Puer begins to show itself. The shadow of the man-child is subtle. It reveals itself through quiet, everyday acts of sabotage. He misses deadlines, forgets commitments, gets financially disorganized, suddenly changes his mind, breaks his promises. Yet all of this is cloaked in a poetic narrative. I'm not ready. I don't want to force anything. I just need more time. But the truth underneath is far less gentle. He is scared. Scared of growing up, of failing, of being judged, of living an ordinary life. And so without realizing it, he undermines anything that demands real maturity. This pattern of self-sabotage ends up affecting everyone around him. Romantic partners suffer the pain of loving someone who, in essence, feels extraordinary, but in reality is often absent. He says he loves yet vanishes. He talks about wanting a future but never takes real steps toward creating one. Family members grow increasingly frustrated as they watch him squander his intelligence, talent, and chances. Friends, too, begin to tire, exhausted by supporting someone stuck in a constant cycle of almost Quote, "And behind all of this, there lingers a stifling sensation. He seems unable to move forward, caught in a loop of never-ending emotional adolescence. And like every archetype, the shadow of the poor feeds on the unconscious. He does not realize that he is destroying himself, and worse, believes that others are the problem. He accuses the world of being boring, rigid, controlling. He sees those who have matured as traitors to freedom, and so he isolates himself more and more, believing he is being true to his essence, when in fact, he is being a slave to fear." Jung said that we do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The shadow of the poor is not to be denied, but faced. The problem is not the fact that he carries the child within him. The problem is when that child becomes a tyrant, sabotaging the chance to live a full and real life. And this sabotage has deep roots because the puer is rarely alone. Behind him, there is almost always a silent presence that feeds his behavior and perpetuates his imprisonment. The figure of the symbolic mother. In the next part, we will reveal the role of this hidden dynamic, how the psychic dependence on the eternal mother keeps the poet infantilized, and why breaking this bond is the only possible way out. The eternal mother, the symbiotic relationship that nurtures the pure. No Puer Aeternus emerges from nothing. Behind almost every man who refuses to grow up, there is a silent figure, sometimes loving, sometimes suffocating, who protects him from the world but also prevents him from facing it. This figure, in Carl Jung's analytical psychology, is called the archetypal mother, and when her presence becomes excessive, she transforms into the devouring great mother, the one who, instead of giving life, traps. This mother can be literal, a real, overprotective mother who did everything for her son, who never let him make mistakes, who always supported him in his falls, but who unconsciously prevented him from developing autonomy. Or it might take on a symbolic form, a partner who slips into the role of caregiver, a grandmother, a nurturing feminine figure who protects, feeds, embraces, and unconsciously expects eternal loyalty in return. The poor, in turn, becomes a man who seeks from the feminine not a partner, but a maternal substitute. Someone who understands without asking, accepts without challenging, supports without boundaries. Though this symbiotic bond offers comfort, it's quietly corrosive, as it blocks any real engagement with the outside world. As long as he is being taken care of, there's no need to act, no need to choose, no need to grow. He stays locked in emotional childhood, waiting for the women around him to solve what he refuses to confront. The call to step into adult life. And often, the symbolic mother finds herself caught in this dynamic too. She believes she's helping, believes she's loving, but in truth, she's sustaining a cycle of psychological dependence that slowly depletes them both. Jung was clear on this. The greatest tragedy is when the mother refuses to allow the child's psychological birth. In other words, even as the body grows older, the psyche stays undeveloped, childlike, still yearning for comfort rather than searching for grounding. This dynamic becomes even more serious when the puer enters relationships. He falls in love quickly, idealizes the partner, places unrealistic expectations on her, as if she were to resolve all the internal voids he himself refuses to acknowledge. But as soon as the relationship demands depth, commitment, or responsibility, he flees. He distances himself. He sabotages. Or worse, he blames the other person because deep down, he never wanted a partner. He wanted a mother disguised as a lover. Breaking this dynamic requires pain. It requires separation. It requires cutting the psychic cord. But it is this rupture that initiates the true process of individuation. Growing hurts, but not growing hurts more. And it is exactly about this that we will talk now. The path to maturity and the inevitable price paid for leaving psychic childhood. It is time to look at the transformation process, how the poor can finally stop fleeing and begin to build his own internal structure. The road to maturity, killing the child, integrating man. There comes a point in life when the mask begins to fall apart. Unlived dreams start to weigh heavily, and the echoes of broken relationships leave lasting marks. Life, once wide with possibility, begins to feel more confined. And at that moment, the man still under the spell of the Puer Aeternus is confronted with his own reflection and must ask, how much longer will I live as if time is infinite? This is the threshold, the moment when the pain of staying immature finally outweighs the fear of growing up. But to imagine that maturity comes gently is to be misled. Carl Jung spoke plainly about this journey. Individuation, the path toward becoming truly oneself, is a kind of psychic birth, and like all births, it comes with pain, blood, and the experience of symbolic death. The first step is to face the collapse of fantasy. It is to understand that life will not wait for you to be ready, that there is no perfect moment, that no one will come to save you. It is to recognize that the real world is not a hostile place, but rather the only stage where something true can happen. That growing up is not betraying your essence, it is building it. But for that, one must mourn. The mourning of the idealized boy, the mourning of the imagined life, the mourning of promises that were never fulfilled, and above all, the mourning of the symbolic mother. Killing the boy within does not mean suffocating your creativity, your lightness, or your dreaming soul. It means no longer using him as an excuse to escape from life. It is about allowing the boy to remain, but now guided by the leadership of the man. True maturity demands structure, consistency, and conscious effort. It's choosing to say no when escape would be easier, to stay committed even when freedom calls, to work with discipline even when inspiration is absent, to stay grounded in a relationship even after the illusion has faded. It's choosing the depth of continuity over the rush of the new. And this is the hidden truth. When the poor is integrated into the adult psyche, he doesn't vanish, he evolves. He becomes the wellspring of intuition, creativity, and vision, now directed by a grounded, mature mind capable of shaping the world. This is the real rebirth, when the eternal boy stops running from reality and begins to co-create with it. But this journey is anything but easy, and it never unfolds on its own. Many men, upon reaching this stage, find themselves lost and drained, unsure of where to begin. They sense the need for transformation. They understand that the era of psychic childhood has ended, yet they struggle to grasp how to truly take hold of their lives. And that's exactly why this video continues. Because in the next segment, we'll speak directly to those standing at this threshold, those who long for change but haven't yet found the way forward. The moment of truth has arrived, and the choice to grow is now yours to make. The call responsibility. If you've made it this far, it's because something within you recognizes the urgency of what's been spoken. Maybe you've seen this pattern play out in someone close, or perhaps you've seen your own reflection in every line. And there's absolutely no shame in that. None at all. Because all of us, in some way, carry the pull to remain children in a world that constantly calls for maturity. We've all avoided responsibilities, chased shortcuts, and wished for comfort before we were truly ready to meet life head on. But the truth is both simple and unforgiving. Life doesn't wait. It demands, it challenges, it pushes. And sooner or later, you'll be faced with a choice. Stay stuck in the realm of promises, or finally step across into the realm of fulfillment. And that crossing only happens when you choose to grow. Not when the timing feels right, not when everything is in place, but the moment you find the courage to stop running. Carl Jung warned that those who refuse to face their own demons are doomed to encounter them again and again at every turn. The Puer Aeternus is one of those demons, disguised as freedom, authenticity, or the misunderstood genius. But in reality, it eats away at your foundation and makes true building impossible. It won't vanish on its own. You must face it, name it, integrate it, and above all, choose to rise above it. Maturity begins the moment you stop waiting for someone else to rescue you and decide to rescue yourself. When you understand that responsibility isn't a cage, it's the road to real strength. When you see that true freedom isn't doing whatever you please, but having the inner structure to choose what's truly necessary. Now I want to hear from you. Which part of this video spoke to you the most? Share it in the comments. Be honest. Sometimes writing it down is the first step to giving shape to what you've felt. And if this video stirred something in you, pass it along to someone who needs to hear it. Someone stuck in the same cycle, perhaps without even realizing it. And this is just the beginning. The next video is just as vital. It uncovers another key part of this journey. Keep going. It might sting at times, but it will set you free. And in the end, that's what truly matters. Real freedom.